will call this Utility Special District Board of Directors meeting to order, Wednesday, September 15th, 5:30 p.m. Madam Clerk?
Chairperson Shirley Lanier.
Here.
Vice Chairperson Kashamba Miller Anderson. Board Member Trodrick McCoy.
Here.
Board Member Julia Botel. Board Member Douglas Lawson.
Here.
Ex officio Board Member Mayor Ronnie Felder. City Manager Jonathan Evans.
Present.
City District Clerk Claudine Anthony is present. District Attorney Don Wynn.
Here.
District Finance Director Randy Sherman. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. We will have a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Councilman McCoy.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be noted that the Pro Tem Councilwoman Kashama Miller Anderson is present at the dais.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Do we have any additions, deletions, or substitutions for this agenda this evening?
Yes, Madam Chair, we have one from staff. If I can allow for the clerk to read that item into the record.
Very good. Go ahead.
Madam Chair, members of the board, we have an added item. It will be under the regular section of the agenda. Item number 3, resolution number 26-21, UD, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the City of Riviera Beach, Utility Special District, Palm Beach County, Florida, authorizing the Board of Directors to approve of the Executive Director of Utility Special District to serve as the official delegate for the State of Florida Department of Economic Opportunity, CDBG-DR grant, and providing an effective date.
Very good. Are there any disclosures by the board or staff in regards to any of the items located on this agenda this evening? Hearing none, can I get a motion to adopt the agenda?
Move to approve. Second.
Madam Clerk?
Board Member McCoy?
Yes.
Board Member Lawson?
Yes.
Vice Chair Miller Anderson?
Yes.
Chair Lanier?
Yes.
Motion approved.
We are at the consent agenda portion of our meeting. All matters listed under this item are considered to be routine, and action will be taken by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve
Pull number 2, Madam Chair. I would like to pull number 2. In fact, I'm not even sure why number 2 is on consent. That is the operating budget for USD.
Very
that
good.
shouldn't be a consent item.
Very good. I'll pull it from the consent agenda. Can we get a motion to approve
So
the...
move. Second.
Very good. Madam Clerk?
Madam Chair, members of the board, there are no public comment cards on the consent agenda. The acceptance of public comment cards on the consent agenda is now closed. Board Member Lawson?
Yes.
Board Member McCoy?
Yes.
Vice Chair Miller Anderson?
Yes.
Chair Lanier?
Yes.
Motion approved.
Very good. Next item?
Resolution number 20.
Presentation, Mr. Evans.
Sorry. Can you hear me, Walter?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. Sorry.
Madam
My
Chair.
sound was-
Please be noted that Councilwoman Botel is attending virtually for this USD meeting. I'm sorry, Mr. Evans, Ms. Jacobs.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Sherman, the Finance Director, will be presenting this item.
Good
Thank
evening.
you. Go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. Randy Sherman, District Finance Director. I don't know. Walter, can you make this the whole screen? Or who's back? They make this the whole screen? So it's easy to read. Thank you. All right. Okay, so we've had a number of different budget workshops. I know we gave you a quick overview of the special district budget. This is the operating budget. As you can see, there are not a lot of changes from line item to line item. When we discussed this back in August, I believe, we did mention that the revenues were not quite keeping pace with where they had been budgeted at. So we've taken the revenues down slightly. But if you look down, so the budget has actually gone from $29.5 million for this year to $29.3 million for fiscal 2022. Personnel costs are increasing. So what the district did with no rate increase is they actually took out dollars out of their operating costs. So operating costs have dropped from $10.5 million to $9.9 million. You'll see that part of that actually went down into contingency, so we can actually, make sure if we've reduced repairs and maintenance line item, we tried to put a little bit extra dollars into the contingency. The payment for the ECR comes from the ECR directly, and then you see the last three lines. The utility district does pay their share of the pension obligation bonds that were issued almost 7 years ago at this point. The utility district debt, and then we have a required transfer to the utility district renewal and replacement and renewal fund that's stipulated in the bond documents. So again, the budget is fairly flat. As you can see, it's less than 1% change, but it is a decrease to keep pace with the revenues. And then, again, as mentioned on the salary side, there were a number of changes. This was presented to the board again back in August. The utility district is adding a backflow technician position, a chief mechanic position, and a compliance technician position, and 2 laboratory technician positions. One position is being reclassified. That is a compliance and safety officer to a compliance manager. And then to fund the additional positions, again, because there were not new revenues coming into the district, they unfunded a maintenance worker position, a senior equipment operator position, a senior office assistant, and 2 water plant operator positions. And that's the utility district operating budget, and I can take any questions.
Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
So, Mr. Sherman, I asked a question during the workshop as far as the city's budget is concerned, how much we roll over back from, I guess, a fiscal year, and you said about $1.5 million. What would you say for the district, if any, roll over back into the next year?
Some years, it's been $2 or $3 million.
Well, I would imagine so if we haven't.
This fiscal year, I don't think we're going to be rolling anything forward.
Okay. So what's unusual about this, and I'm going to bring the members' attention to it, and I also shared this with Mr. Evans yesterday, is this budget seems to be, or at least this item presented, your presentation seems to suggest that we're going to do a transfer into renewal and replacement. I believe that was on the first slide, or second slide. Correct. Maybe. And that's certainly different than last year because we took it as an omnibus resolution last year, and this year there's no specific capital plan other than, I guess, the capital expenses, but the capital projects plan was rolled into one item that we voted on in September of 2020. That's not the same this time.
Yeah, let me explain what the difference is. Every year as part of the bond resolution, we have to fund this renewal and replacement. It's a percentage of our revenues, and it gets automatically transferred. Because again, the bond holders want to make sure that you're maintaining the system, so that's a requirement every year. Last year, as you just referred to, when the operating budget has a surplus every year, there's a flow of funds. Those dollars go through a flow of funds. After we have funded the O&M reserve, which is 50% of the operating costs, the balance flows into a capital reserve. So year after year, as there's a surplus, those dollars in essence fall down into a capital reserve that is in the operating fund, so it's part of the fund balance. What we did last year, in addition to the replacement and renewal transfer that's required, we also transferred $15 million out of that capital reserve fund. That had grown to $20 million, and because of the capital needs that, you know, the utility district was facing, we took $15 million of that emergency capital dollars and actually transferred it to the capital plan.
Follow up. I don't disagree with that, Mr. Sherman. I guess my question or point that I was making was certainly is different than it was presented last year, and here's why. Specifically, if I wanted to vote against the transfer of the monies going into the renewal or replacement for whatever reason, it should not be consolidated with the operating budget of the utility district. They're two independent functions. I mean, the operating budget covers, you know, expenses and employees and a small portion of capital, and even the ECR, but that should not be consolidated with the operating budget. And again, this year it seems to be kind of the same when they're completely mutually exclusive. That's the first point that I want to bring up. The next thing is, as it relates to ECR, you said, I think you said that gets, maybe, I believe you wanted to say it gets billed directly from the ECR, the 4.5 million?
That comes from their adopted budget. They take their budget and they allocate it out to all of the members. So that number is their number that they provide to us.
And in the same fashion, we should have been billing the town of Mangonia Park for wastewater rates, because in turn, we're getting billed by ECR for the same wastewater that we're processing and sending over to them, but we're not, or at least we didn't in that resolution that passed back in May. We chose not to accept the full amount that they owed us, but in turn, we're now forced to pay the full amount that gets remitted to ECR, while the town of Mangonia Park had their water bill, or utility bill for that matter, reduced by this board. And that's very apparent here, that we get billed in some kind of way. The board, which I think is improper, voted to allow them free service, while we still have to foot the bill for folks that aren't even within the municipal boundaries. So that is my concerns with this, and I'm not going to support it, again, for this reason. And I brought this up, and quite frankly, you know, a point of interest for legal is like, you know, again, we're processing something that I think we've already established that is not proper legally, that you can't combine or consolidate, you know, items that aren't, I guess they aren't even related. The transfer has nothing to do with the operating budget. If we didn't have any debt whatsoever, we would just be passing an operating budget. And, you know, again, it was on consent, and even more confusing, when I open up the agenda item and I go into the backup and look at the summary, for some reason we have the millage rate and the capital budget for the city a part of this agenda summary. This is completely put together at the last minute. There wasn't a whole lot of focus in trying to prepare this item, and I think that's probably why it was on consent. And for those reasons, because it's so inaccurate and there's a number of discrepancies, I don't think any member of this board should adopt this. Because if you're not here to question exactly how we're spending taxpayers' dollars, well, specifically this wouldn't be considered taxpayer dollars in UD, then I don't understand the purpose. But I'm not going to sign off on something or agree to support something that I just know for at least 3 or 4 reasons that I provided that is on its face incorrect. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Are there any other questions in regards to this item?
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
not necessarily, I have a question for I have a question for the finance director, Mr. Sherman, sorry. Could I have an update, please, Mr. Sherman, on your analysis of moving the district, the utility district under the auspices of the city? Have you looked at that, and can you tell us what, if any, the benefits would be, what the drawbacks would be, would you be saving any?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I have taken a look at it. Most of the items that are beneficial are more of the administrative nature. We don't have to do certain things. We don't have to report the district separately. We don't have to have a separate audit. Those types of issues. The biggest financial impact comes with the impact fees. As I mentioned several meetings ago, when the utility district assesses an impact fee for new construction, 50% of that impact fee goes to the city, 50% goes to the utility district. So I will say, since I have been with the city for the last 9 years, I'd say probably about $6 million have gone to the city, and $6 million has, stayed with the district. So that's a major impact. So as we move forward, if there's additional, building going on in the community, by making it a city department, you do away with the purchase and sale agreement or the conditions of the purchase and sale agreement, and then all of the impact fees would be able to stay with the district. Other than that, again, the employees are city employees, so that wouldn't change. Accounts payable doesn't change, collections don't change. So again, it's a lot of the administrative issues, for example, having a separate meeting, things like that. But again, as far as dollars, it's on the impact fee side. What would it take to make it a city department? Is that the question? The district was created through ordinance. It would just take an ordinance to dissolve it.
I'd like to request that we put something on the agenda to consider that ordinance.
Very good. She wants to put an ordinance or this issue on the next item for the utility district or the city in regards to having the water department as a part of the city instead of a separate entity. And given the issues or the comments made by the finance director in terms of the financial impact and the administrative impact, she would like to bring it forward.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
With regards to that particular item, the board did provide staff with the appropriate direction to bring back additional information related to the topic. At this particular moment, I don't think we are prepared to bring in ordinance forward to effectively do that. We'd like to provide a more comprehensive presentation to the board as we've surveyed other municipalities and collecting information. And since it is a special district, there is state statutes that do apply to this particular matter. So it will require a little bit more research, but staff can bring this as an item for discussion for the board at a future meeting, not necessarily the next meeting if it's the board's pleasure.
Madam Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
I mean, I'm always open to receiving the information, so I'm fine with, at the appropriate time to be able to do that. I know that's not something that we were planning to do, so if it's the next 2 or 3 meetings, that's fine, but I'm okay with the presentation. I'm not settled on moving forward with doing it, so I would like to know what that entails.
Very good. So we're looking at the next 2 meetings, Mr. Evans, or?
If it is the pleasure of the board, we can accomplish that.
Very good.
Well, let me just state, I'm going to certainly ask that the mayor doesn't support that item, even if he has to veto it, because, even with listening to the presentation, I don't think, and I went back and looked at the item that was presented at last month USD, there hasn't even been enough explanation or justification, and I think I shared with Ms. Nguyen that I some kind of way found the original documents which set forth the utility district, but nobody even touched on exactly the real reason as to why the USD was created. But just to do it for convenience, and there's no, I guess, rational nexus as to why you're doing it, just to me doesn't make sense. We're setting a budget right now which is going to carry us through September 30th, 2022, and then obviously the real purpose is just to sunset it, to consolidate it up under the city. Quite frankly, my opinion is that the USD charter specifically sets forth different parameters that would not have normally applied under the city. And I think if you try to go back that direction, you're basically circumventing, usurping the very purpose and intent as to why it was created as a separate organizational legal entity, or in the manager's words, a special district, a dependent special district under the city. In fact, with the original documents, and I think I've heard you mention this, Mr. Sherman, suggested that the USD should have been operated by a completely different board of directors outside of the city, and I also found those in those documents as well. But just to do it arbitrarily just for convenience, and I've not really heard any real, I guess, substantive reason as to do it, doesn't, to me, make any sense or reason enough to change it. So certainly, I'm going to ask the mayor not to support it if it does get presented and passes by way of ordinance. Thank you.
I'd just like to say, Mr. McCoy, we're not voting on this to happen. All we're asking for is in the next two meetings that the city administration bring back a presentation. We're not going to vote either way about this issue. We're just requesting more information of this happening or not happening based on the information that's presented. Any other questions in regards to this item? Madam Clerk.
Board Member Botel.
I'm sorry, we can't.
You didn't see my message. Oh, no. Okay.
Under the impression that I could vote, I've just been told that I can't.
Okay.
Mr. Evans, could you clarify that for me? Because I thought you told me I would be able to vote even on the time now.
Madam Chair, if I may, the provision that was discussed or the thought process would be that based on our emergency declaration that we would be able to allow for virtual participation. However, in the virtual participation, it didn't allow for the same type of rights that we did have as a result of when we did put the declaration in place. And so in the event that you were absent as it related to an illness, you could participate and you could appear virtually, but you could not participate in this particular meeting. And so that was provided to me today from legal's interpretation. So my apologies with regards to that.
Yeah, I certainly would have flown back earlier if I knew that I was going to be prevented from voting this evening, but that's okay. What's done is done. Thanks.
Yeah, she should have been told that. Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
Board Member Lawson.
No.
Board Member McCoy.
No.
Vice Chair Miller Anderson.
Yes.
Chair Lanier.
Yes.
That motion fails.
Next item?
Resolution number 26-21 UD, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the City of Riviera Beach, Utility Special District, Palm Beach County, Florida, authorizing the Board of Directors to approve of the Executive Director of the Utility Special District to serve as the official delegate for the State of Florida Department of Economic Opportunity, CDBG-DR grant, and provide an effective date. Madam Chair, members of the board, we do not have any public comment cards on this item. The acceptance of public comment cards on this item is now closed.
So moved.
Second. Do we have any public comment cards for this item?
No public comment cards, Madam Chair.
Ms. Jacobs.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, council persons in your respective places, Mr. Evans and Mrs. Nguyen. For the record, my name is Deirdre Jacobs, and I serve as Interim Director of the Utility Special District. Resolution 2621 simply asks if the board would provide the Executive Director with the authority to sign off on any grant documents. Back in October of 2019, the city applied for a competitive grant. It was a CDBG grant that came through the State of Florida Department of Economic Opportunity, wherein we received $1.9 million to rehab a couple of aerial crossings. We were awarded the funds, and as a part of that project, there are certain grant documents that have to be signed off on by city staff. So staff is asking that you would please grant the authority of the Executive Director to sign off on the grant document.
Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. Ms. Jacobs, you're asking us to give you the authority? Is that what I heard?
Yes, sir, in this capacity.
Okay, so the recommendation says that it is required that the delegation authority be given to the Utilities Executive Director by the chairperson. So which is it? Because clearly the resolution doesn't match up with what the memo says.
Okay. From my understanding, the way that when we originally received the grant, it was written wherein the chairperson would be the person that will be signing off on all of the grant documents. But that's not practical for that to occur in that particular fashion. So we asked the state of Florida, how could it be corrected? And they sent us information wherein other agencies had done the same thing. And the change was asked to be allowed for the executive director to do it for practical reasons.
Okay, so the memo is incorrect in saying that the chairperson gives you the authority.
So actually, it would be the board that would give us the authority.
Okay, so my question is, the memo is incorrect.
Well, Madam Chair, but I think because they sign off on, the chairperson signs off on all of the documents usually. So is that what they're alluding to?
Well, I mean, quite frankly, this came last minute, but I guess the resolution says one thing, but the memo says something different. If the chairperson, which I believe the charter, the USD charter already gives the chairperson that authority, then why is it before us? Either way, I mean, I just wanted to clarify which one is incorrect, because there's two different things. If the chair has the authority, it shouldn't come before us. If you're saying that your direction that you got from the state of Florida is that the board needs to do it, then I'm okay with it. But, you know, last minute and then to read something that's in conflict, I just want to make sure I'm clear on what exactly is being asked. And also, whatever authority that clarification, it should have been provided to us, because, I mean, yeah, I did read the chart, and I thought specifically the chair had certain duties or, I guess, authorities already, but, you know, whatever, we can call the vote, but it's not clear.
So I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, I understand what he's saying about the chairperson, but with all the documents, even the contracts for USD, the chairperson signs off on it, but the board has to vote on it. The chair can't just go and sign off on stuff. That still comes to us, and we vote on it. So I would imagine, it sounds as if this is the same thing, same type of thing. We have to approve it, and then she signs off on it. Because I don't see where the chairperson is just going to give that authority on their own. I've never seen that.
Well,
So if I could, Madam
ahead.
Chair, thank you, Mrs. Miller Anderson. From my understanding, what happened is when the document went to the state, it was signed off on by the chairperson. So the state took that as the formal way that the documents would always come to them. The documents would be signed off on by a chairperson. That wasn't the practical thing to occur, where all of the grant documents would be signed off on by the chairperson. So in trying to reconcile what had occurred, they presented to us a different a format that we could use to bring to the board. And from my understanding as well, it happened with other agencies. So they had a format that was set up, and they shared it with us where we could bring it before the board and simply ask if it could be corrected and allow staff to sign off on the grant documents.
okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions in regards to this item? Madam Clerk?
Board Member McCoy?
Yes.
Board Member Lawson?
Yes.
Vice Chair Miller Anderson?
Yes.
Chair Lanier?
Yes.
Motion approved.
That is the last item on our agenda for our utility district meeting. Are there any public comments in general for this meeting?
Madam Chair, members of the board, we do have a public comment card.
All right, very good. We'll do that at this time.
Madam Chair,
Please be reminded that the Board of Directors has adopted rules of decorum, public conduct during official meetings, which has been posted at the front desk. And in an effort to preserve order, if any of the rules are not adhered to, the Board of the Directors chair may have any disruptive speaker or attendee removed from the podium, from the meeting, and/or the building if necessary. Please govern yourselves accordingly. Public comment shall begin at 6:15 p.m. unless there is no further business of the city by the Board of Directors, which in the event it shall be sooner. In addition, if any item is being considered after 6:15, then comments from the public shall begin immediately after the item has been concluded. Any person who would like to speak during public comments, please fill out a public comment card located at the front desk and give it to the staff before the public comment section is announced. Madam Clerk.
Betsy Brown?
Good evening, Bessie Brown.
Good
I'd
evening.
like to ask, has the new rates for the utility district, have they been implemented yet? Could someone give me an answer on that? That's the only thing I'm here for.
All right, very good. Thank you. Are there any other comments for,
Madam Chair, members of the board, that concludes public comments.
do the district executive director want to respond to that issue?
The answer is no.
Very good, thank you. That is the end of our public comment. Discussions by the executive director. Any discussion,
Sure.
comments?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just wanted to bring to the board's attention the progress that's been made with regards to the water treatment plant solicitation that went out. We hit a snag with the departure of our procurement director, but we're back on track now. We're hopeful that we'll be able to bring the documents to you for your, the presentations to you by the developers within the next month, meaning October. And then in the month of November, it's hopeful that we'll have a contract and we'll be back on track with the development of our new water treatment plant. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments by our district attorney?
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
Comments by the board, starting with Dr. Botel.
Nothing, again, I'm quite disappointed that I can't vote this evening. I have no comment.
Thank you. Councilman Lawson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Jacobs, thank you for everything that you're doing with the UD and all the work that you're providing. Currently, I know that we're looking for a permanent utility district director. Do you know where we stand currently with the hiring of that process?
We have 3 applications that are in place, and we're in the process of scheduling them. I did send out an email to a person over at in our HR department to assist me with setting up the interviews today.
Okay. And time frame and timeline of when we're looking to bring in this individual?
It is hopeful that we'll be able to do it within the next probably 30 to 60 days.
And then also expectations for transition of this new director with your role. What is going to be that process when it comes to bringing in this new hire? Are you going to be walking through and transitioning them, or are they just going to be coming in fresh? What's going to be the steps that are taken?
Sir, without a doubt, because I serve as the assistant city manager over that particular department, the transition should be pretty smooth.
Perfect. And I know it will. Thank you, Ms. Jacobs.
You're welcome.
Mr. McCoy.
Thank you. Ms. Jacobs, can you provide us with the responses to the solicitation for the utility district? I'm sure 30 days has elapsed, and I'm going to ask that we be provided. Specifically, I'm going to ask that I be provided, but there's no legal reason that I could see as to why at this point we aren't providing them. Have they been evaluated?
They're in the process of being, in terms of whether or not they've met all the fair requirements as far as the submittal goes. That's being done now as we speak.
But it has been 30 days since we've received them.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I don't know that unless Ms. Nguyen would have some reason, but I don't know why they wouldn't be able to be provided to us, because I think at this point they're no longer considered exempt from public records. That's a question for Ms. Nguyen.
We can look at that and let you know, Mr. McCoy.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Councilwoman Kashima Miller Anderson. And thank you so much, Ms. Jacobs, for your hard work and your department's hard work. We really appreciate it. We appreciate the fact that you're getting our water back on track. We appreciate the fact that you are on the way or on the track of getting us a new water plant. We really appreciate the fact that we're moving in the right direction, and it appears that we are moving quickly, and thank you so much for that. This meeting is adjourned.
How long we got, Chairperson?